Hello everyone. In today's class we'll be discussing about the Coriolis force. So what is Coriolis force and how they are useful, and why these Coriolis forces act, and where are these Coriolis force acting. So today all these things we will be learning in the class. Myself S. Vidyarani, working as Assistant Professor of Physics at MVS Government Degree College, Autonomous, Mehboob. Let's start our today's session. So as the name itself says, that it's the name of a scientist called Gaspard Gustave Coriolis. He was born on May 21 in 1792 and he died on September 19, 1843. He was a French mathematician, mechanical engineer and scientist. Kinetic energy and work to rotating systems like water wheels. He has worked on these topics. So the Coriolis force defined. How can we define the Coriolis force? So this Coriolis force arises from a non-inertial frame, accelerated or rotating frame of reference, causes deflection of a moving object from a straight line. That means when any body which is in rotating frame of reference, it causes deflection of the moving object, not in a straight line but in a curved path. So that means it's a fictitious force which acts due to gravity or say centrifugal force. So a fluid assuming a parabolic shape as it is rotating. So when a fluid is rotating in a bowl or say in a jar, a fluid, it assumes a parabolic shape rather than straight shape because as it is rotating. If you see here, there is a figure here. So wherein the water is rotating, because of which it takes the shape of a parabola. When air has been set in motion by the pressure gradient force, it undergoes an apparent deflection from its path. Why this Coriolis force arises is that, so when air is moving, that means when air is set to motion because of the pressure gradient force, it undergoes a deflection from its original path. So this deflection is called as Coriolis force. It is due to the result of Earth's rotation. Because the Earth is rotating, whatever the object is there, so when it starts moving, what happens? It doesn't move in its original path, but it deflects from its original path, taking the shape of a parabola or say a curved path. So this deflection is called as is due to Coriolis forces. So if there is a figure here, so due to Earth's rotation, if you observe, northern hemisphere I have shown with a red redding, and southern hemisphere I have shown with a violet color or purple color say. So objects deflect to the right in the northern hemisphere. If you observe, so when an object is thrown in the northern hemisphere, it deflects to the right in the northern hemisphere. So and the same thing, if you observe, the same object is thrown away from the southern hemisphere, it deflects to its left. So this is what happens due to Earth's rotation. The Coriolis force, named after French mathematician Gaspard Gustave de Coriolis. This force has traditionally been derived as a matter of coordinate transformation by an essentially kinematics technique. So he used, or say he derived by using coordinate transformation using kinematics technique. So application of Coriolis principles elucidates cause and effects aspects of the dynamics and energetics of the atmosphere, the geostrophic adjustment process, the circulation around jet streams, the meridional extent of the Hadley cell, the strength and location of the subtropical jet stream, etc. So what are the applications of Coriolis principles? If you see, so cause and effects due to the movements are said due to the motion of the atmosphere, motion in the caused in the atmosphere, the geostrophic adjustment process, how the adjustment process takes place. So on the Earth, the circulation around jet streams, in the meridional extent of the Hadley cell, and also the strength and location of the subtropical jet stream. All these things are the applications of Coriolis principles. Coriolis force, if you see, it's a deflection force. In a simple words, if we want define Coriolis force can be defined as a deflection force which moves the body from its original path. So this Coriolis force also depends on latitude, wind speed, Earth's rotation rate. So all these things, Coriolis forces depends. And if we observe, it acts at right angles to the wind. So it acts at right angles to the movement of the wind. So deflection is proportional to wind speed. That's why slowly blowing winds will be deflected only a small amount, while stronger winds will be deflected more. So deflection is directly proportional to the wind speed. So if the wind is very slow, that means the object is deflected to a small amount. If the winds are very stronger, then the objects are deflected more. So that means deflection is directly proportional to the wind speed. On the other hand, winds blowing closer to the poles will be deflected more than winds at the same speed closer to the equator. If you take the example of wind speed, then deflection is directly proportional to wind speed. But if we observe uh, the same speed, so let us say if the object is thrown at the poles and at the equator with the same speed, then if there is constant speed, so at the poles deflection will be more. Deflection will be more at the poles. At the equator, deflection will be less. That means we can say that near the poles the deflection is more, whereas at the equator there is less deflection. So when we throw an object with the same speed at the poles near the equator, the object deflects more near the poles rather than at the equator. This force is important mainly for the motion of objects traveling long distance, such as air circulating around a hurricane, the sea breeze circulation, etc. So where is this force useful for us? So this force helps to understand the motion of objects traveling long distances, such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and all these things. So the sea breeze circulation, etc. So let's go into the details. So Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect is nothing but the tendency for any moving object on or above the Earth's surface, example, an ocean current, wind, or an artillery round, to drift sideways from its course because of the Earth's rotation. So the tendency of any moving object on the Earth's surface to move or to deflect sideways from its original path due to the Earth's rotation. See, latitude and the strength of the Coriolis force, if you observe here. So near the equators, you might have observed, near the equator there is almost no deflection. But while we are moving towards the poles, what happens? So there is deflection maximum at the poles, at the north pole, and this is also south pole. So there is maximum deflection also here also in the southern hemisphere. In northern hemisphere, deflections are to the right. So if you observe here, so northern hemisphere deflections are to the right, and southern hemisphere, if you observe, deflections are to the left. So, and Earth's rotation is towards from west to east. So near the equator there is no deflection. And see, if you observe how the winds are moving, how the object is thrown. So if the object is thrown from this point towards this, The expected path is that the object should travel from on this dotted line. But what happens? Due to the Coriolis forces, it takes a curved path and it deflects from its original path. So this is the original path, that is, or say actual path, that is taken by the object because of the Coriolis forces that are acting on the earth surface. So here also the same figure. So in the above diagram, blue arrows, if you observe here, blue arrows denote a possible straight line path, and red arrows indicate the Coriolis induced deflection. These are red directions are the induced deflections because of the Coriolis forces. These are to the right in the northern hemisphere, and these are to the left in the southern hemisphere, as I've told earlier. So the deflections are to the right in the northern hemisphere, whereas the deflections are to the left in the southern hemisphere. So if you see the earth rotation here, there is a north pole, let us say here. So the earth is moving from west to east, so direction of rotation will be in this way at the north pole. Whereas at the south pole, if you observe, the direction of rotation is to the from and clockwise direction. So the reason for the reversal right or left is just the consequence of direction of motion in the two hemispheres. So Earth's rotation is, if you observe, it is anti-clockwise at the north pole, whereas it is in clockwise direction at the south pole. These two different consequences of direction is due to the motion of the two hemispheres of the earth. What are the fundamental characteristics of Coriolis force? Let us see. So the Coriolis force produces an apparent deflection in all moving objects regardless of their direction of motion. So these Coriolis forces, they cause deflection in all the moving objects regardless the direction of their movement. So the deflection is to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere. So the Coriolis force is zero at the equator, as I have told earlier. So there will not be any Coriolis forces acting at the equator, because the planet's 24-hour rotation imparts no twisting motion at the equator. Because the earth is moving, there won't be any twisting equation at the equator. So hence there won't be any Coriolis force acting on near the equator, and increases with latitude, reaching a maximum level at the poles. So when we move away from the equator on either sides, so as the latitude increases, the Coriolis forces also increases, because of which the deflection will be more, or say maximum level at the poles. So the Coriolis force acting on any moving object increases with the object speed. So even speed also contributes for the Coriolis force, or say for the deflection increase. So if the object is moving with a higher speed, then what happens? The Coriolis forces also increase on it, which causes more deflection. So the Coriolis force changes only the direction of a moving object, never its speed. Even though the Coriolis forces are acting on the moving object, it only changes the direction of the moving object, but not the speed of the object. The speed of the object, though the Coriolis forces are acting on it, so it will be moving with the same speed, but only the direction of the motion is changed. Now we'll see winds of the atmosphere. Let us see what is geostrophic wind. So balance between PGF and Coriolis forces, that is when the pressure gradient force equals the Coriolis forces. So geostrophic flow occurs only in the upper atmosphere, where friction is absent and only the Coriolis and pressure gradient forces apply. So this geostrophic flow of wind occurs only in the upper atmosphere, where friction is absent, where there won't be any friction, and only the Coriolis and pressure gradient forces apply. At this condition, so there will be a balance between PGF, or say pressure gradient force, and Coriolis forces. So wind blows parallel to the isobars. So when these Coriolis and pressure gradient forces apply, so the wind blows parallel to the isobars. See, I have shown with a figure here, geostrophic wind. So pressure gradient force, low pressure here, and whereas here high pressure. So what happens, parcel initially at rest here. So when it is thrown, what happens, because due to the Coriolis force, its path is deflected from its straight path and it takes the shape of a parabola. So then what happens, when it is moving when in the upper atmosphere, if you observe, pressure gradient force and Coriolis forces have become equal on either sides. So because of which the final trajectory, or say geostrophic wind, occurs, because here the pressure gradient force as well as the Coriolis force are balanced. So this happens only in the upper atmosphere. Next, gradient wind. Let us see what is gradient wind. So due to the absence of friction, the air flows parallel to the contours. To follow the contours, there must be a continual mismatch between the pressure gradient and Coriolis forces. The movement due to the mismatch are referred to as gradient flow or gradient wind. So when there is no friction acting, what happens? The air flows parallel to the contours. So to follow the contours, there must be a continual mismatch between the pressure gradient and the Coriolis forces. So the movement due to the mismatch of these pressure gradient and Coriolis forces is called as gradient flow, or say gradient wind. So gradient flow develops only in the absence of friction. Mind this, that gradient flow develops only in the absence of friction, and the wind flows perpendicular to the pressure gradient. So wind flow is perpendicular to the pressure gradient. This you have to remember. Okay, so gradient flow develops only in the absence of the friction. So there is a figure here showing gradient wind and the relation between the Coriolis forces and pressure gradient force. So if we observe here, so these are the Coriolis forces acting on the object, pressure gradient force acting downwards on the object. So this is the centrifugal force acting away from the center, and the gradient wind arises perpendicular to the wind flow, that is here. When there is low pressure gradient force, if you observe here, it acts towards the center, whereas Coriolis force is acting away from the center, and this will be the centrifugal force. So the gradient wind will be again, it takes a perpendicular, gradient wind always perpendicular to the pressure gradient force and the Coriolis forces. See, Coriolis effect. Counterclockwise direction, if you observe, see here how the winds are taking the shape or deflecting away from their original path. Here red color denotes the actual path that is to be followed by the object while it is moving, but it is the yellow lines are the deflections that are going to take place because of the Coriolis force. So direction of air is denoted by red color, and the deflection caused is denoted by yellow color. So if the earth rotates clockwise direction, then this will be the effect. So okay, evidence for rotation. Coriolis effect is nothing but the tendency of objects moving over the earth, such as air, water, planes, projectiles, to be deflected or say move away or curve away from a straight line path. So the French scientist Gaspard Coriolis first explained the deflection of objects moving over the surface due to the Earth's rotation. So the deflection is to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere. This deflection occurs because Earth's surface is rotating with respect to the object. Because the Earth is rotating, because of which the Coriolis forces arise and there will be a deflection occurring. So I have shown a globe. So how the Coriolis forces are acting here and how the winds are moving. So when a projectile is fired northward from the southern hemisphere, or say from any projectile fired northward, expected path is to travel in a straight line, but it deflects towards the south. That is, actual path will be in this direction. Let us say the same projectile is fired southward. What happens? The expected path is the straight line, but whereas it is deflecting to the right, that is actual path. See, actual motion and the expected motion. So the expected motion is if you observe here, the actual motion is denoted by the expected motion is denoted by gray line, but the body is moving, actual movement is in the direction of the red line. So the body is moving deflected in this way. So these are the subtropical jet streams, polar front, tropopause, polar front jet stream. So all these are the winds movement caused due to the Coriolis forces. North Pole projectile. So a hockey puck is launched from the North Pole. As it heads south, the earth turns to the east. So the earth is revolving towards the east. So as this puck is thrown from the North Pole, as it is heading towards the south, the earth turns to the east, causing the puck to appear to deflect to the west as viewed by an earthbound observer. So when when a person observes from the earth, what happens? The deflection appears to be to the west. So red line if you see path on rotating earth, gray line if you see path on stationary earth. So gray line if you observe, this might have been possible when the earth is stationary, that is the hockey puck is moving in a straight line, but whereas due to the Coriolis forces, because the earth is rotating, because of which its path has been deflected, so hence the actual path will be this path on rotating earth, that is denoted by red color. The diameter from the North Pole to the South Pole, that is the shortest diameter, is approximately 12,714 kilometers. So the equatorial diameter, that is the longest diameter, is approximately 12,756 kilometers. There is not a big difference, but it does make the earth not quite a sphere. If you observe here, so from North Pole, equatorial diameter, if you observe, it is 12,756 kilometers, but if we take the diameter from North Pole to South Pole, it is 12,714 kilometers. That means it is not a perfect circle, you might have observed. So the diameter from the North Pole to South Pole is 12,700. North Pole to South Pole is 12,714 kilometers, whereas the longest diameter, that is equatorial diameter, is 12,756. That means this will be in the shape of this. This is not a big difference, but it does make not a quite sphere. So hence the earth is not in a circular shape. The true shape of the earth is called as oblate spheroid. So the shape of the earth is in the form of oblated sphere, that is oblate spheroid. Now let us know about Foucault pendulums and how they prove the earth rotates. So first let us know what is a pendulum. Something hanging from a fixed point which when pulled back and released is free to swing down by force of gravity and then out and up because of its inertia. So when a body is hanging from a fixed point, when it is pulled back and released, what happens? It is free to swing down by the force of gravity. Because of the inertia, it can also move up and down. So inertia means that bodies in motion will stay in motion, bodies at rest will stay at rest unless acted by an outside force. So this pendulum word comes from the Latin word called pendulus, which means hanging. Pendulum means it comes from the Latin word called pendulus, which means that hanging. Evidence of Earth's rotation. So in 1851, Foucault's pendulum appeared to change in a predictable way. Why is this evidence? Because there is no force acting on the pendulum to make its plane of oscillation rotate or go around its own axis. That means it would continue to swing in the original path if Earth did not rotate. So the Foucault pendulum would have moved in the original path if the earth did not rotate. The pendulum traces out a changing path on earth's surface because earth is rotating under the swinging pendulum. So as the pendulum is swinging, what happens? The pendulum is changing its path on the earth's surface because earth is rotating under the swinging pendulum. So if I have shown here, so a pendulum is tied. So these are the directions, 4 directions I have shown here. So as the pendulum is moving, it is moving in different directions. So this was the first example, that is say experiment that is shown for the Foucault pendulum. As you watch the pendulum for just a short time, it will appear to be moving clockwise across the mosaic map on the floor. But since there is no outside force making the pendulum rotate as it swings and no other outside force interrupting the swing, it must be the floor itself that it is rotating while the path of the pendulum swing remains constant. Though the path of the pendulum swing is remaining constant, but it is looking as if the pendulum is moving because of the earth's rotation. Though the floor is moving, we could see only the pendulum is rotating. So this is the figure shown for Foucault pendulum. What are the apparent motions of celestial objects? If you see the apparent motions of the celestial object, an apparent motion can be real or an illusion. So this apparent motion may be real or an illusion. For example, the stars appear to move across the sky from east to west. So when we see from earth, the stars appear to move from east to west, but actually they are moving from west to east. However, the apparent motion is caused by earth's rotation. Because the motion of the earth, so the stars appear to move from east to west. Pointer stars point to Polaris. If you see pointer stars here, so these pointer stars are pointing towards the Polaris. So this is Little Dipper, this is Big Dipper. So these are the pointer stars. These pointer stars are always pointing to the Polaris. Looking upward, we see the stars fixed on the celestial sphere. Earth's eastward rotation makes the stars between the equator and the north celestial pole appear to move westward. So these stars rise in the east and set in the west. Timed photography showing stars rising in the east. This is the timed photography that is showing that the stars are rising in the east. Earth's counterclockwise rotation makes the stars appear to rotate counterclockwise around the north celestial pole, or say Polaris. So this is the north celestial pole. This is Ursa Minor and this is Ursa Major. So looking north, if you see, these stars appear to rotate counterclockwise around the north sun. So the stars, if you observe, so they are moving in a counterclockwise direction. This is just a figure to show evidence of Earth's revolution around the sun. So seasonal constellations. Because of the sun's annual motion, some constellations are visible at night only during certain seasons. Because the sun's annual motion, some constellations appear only at night during certain seasons. These constellations are visible when the dark side of the earth, or say away from the sun, faces towards the constellation. These constellations are visible only when there is the dark side of the earth. The 13 constellations of the sun, the 13 constellations the sun appears to travel through during the year. If you see here, there is sun here and there is earth here. So, and if you see here, there are 13 constellations. So those are, if you observe, Aquarius, Capricornus, Sagittarius, Scorpius, Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Aries and Pisces. These are the 13 constellations that we have. If you observe here, the earth is, if the earth is between June and August, we could be able to see Sagittarius. So these are the different types of constellations that appear while the earth is rotating around the sun. What all we have learned today? We have learned about what are Coriolis forces, so why they arise, and in what way they help us to understand the motion of an object. So how the object is deflected when the object is thrown from a rotating frame of reference. And we have also seen what is geostrophic winds. We have also seen what are Foucault pendulums. So all these things we have learned while studying about Coriolis forces, which helps us to understand how the motion is deflected under the Coriolis forces because of rotation of any body. Thank you. Signing off for today's session. Thank you one and all.